First off, I want to know, how did you first get into hip hop? What was like the first artist, or did you see a breakdance group or something that kind of got you into the culture?
It's a great question. I don't think I realized it until I was a little older. But my dad, my parents divorced, and my brother and I were still in the UK. And this was like in, kind of like the late 70s. But
Hmm.
he moved to New York City and to live with my grandmother in the Bronx. We went there a couple times from England, to the US, and then we eventually moved to Canada. We visited him from there. But it was being around the culture when a song actually broke. So being around when Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five broke, but when you're in New York, it just has this other feeling. It's just like every single radio station is playing it. Every store you went to, we're playing the song. It just seemed like it was just marketed so well that everybody was playing it. So definitely, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, but also, growing up in Kitchener, we finally moved to Kitchener. I ended up going to discos and clubs, and they were playing, the big songs at the time. So it was like, Sugar Hill Gangs, Rapper's Delight, Curtis Blow, all these big songs that I was dancing to and feeling it. And then you don't realize until probably the 50th or just how far, your hip hop love and passion, really kind of sunk in. So definitely those are early days for me, and then from there just kind of growing through the times and changes of hip
Yeah.
hop, music, and the culture.
It must have been so exciting back then because it was such a new genre at the
Yeah,
time. It's one thing to be into rock and roll, but I mean, rock and roll had been around for quite a number of years. There's different styles of rock and roll, but this was like
right.
almost like an all new genre, and to be almost on the ground floor on that, or very early on, must have been very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And then you realize the elements, the elements of hip hop. So you take in the MC, you take in the graffiti, you take in the DJ, you take in the B-boy, B-girl, break dancers. There's all these different elements, and that comprise of hip hop, and you can just see the change. You can see the growth. Like you can see just even in hip hop fashion, and, if it comes from the street and then all of a sudden bang, the gap is the gap
Yeah.
has bit it.
Yeah.
So it's done well. It's the
Yeah.
same thing with hip hop and as far as the music and the beats, the fact that once it happens, on the streets, you start hearing hip hop through commercials. You start hearing hip hop in country. You start hearing all the different facets it touches.
Yeah. It started off as a hip hop started off as a very localized thing, starting with Cool Herc throwing parties in the Bronx, but it didn't really take long for it to spread to other cities. And then, certainly in the 80s, as you mentioned, it really took off around the world, became pretty mainstream, despite, sometimes labels and organizations like the Grammys not really taking to it or taking it very seriously. Why do you think that this genre has and the culture has been so resilient?
Honestly, I think it's just the fact that you know it's resilient, and but at the end of the day, if you look at how it's $1 billion industry.
Mm.
So it touches so many different avenues and parts of our lives, through movies, through fashion, through art, through so many different and the music, obviously. So there's so many different areas that it manages to touch, and it's constantly evolving. There's
Hmm.
always an evolution with hip hop, and that's what I find. So, I mean, I've been around for a hot minute. So I've done the '70s, I've done the '80s, I've done the '90s. I'm here now in the 2000s, Lisa, and so I've done,
2020s.
I've, yeah, yeah, the '20s, yeah. 20, so now you see the evolution. Young kids might not know about some of the foundation, but they're bringing their elements of hip hop, to the table in a different light and a different energy.
Well, and this event that you're hosting at Studio Bell, it's celebrating 50 years of hip hop, but with a Canadian touch. Tell us what you put together.
Well, I've been working with Andrew from NMC, the National
Hmm.
Music Center, and that has been real positive. We kind of connected at the CMW Canadian Music Week, and it was a matter of just he said, "Hey, I want you to come out," and I'm like, "Okay, what am I going to do?" And then we connected and said, "Hey, let's celebrate hip hop's 50th, from the West." And so also, and then also co-curating with Benny J, and working with him to curate. We're gonna have a sit down round table. So we've got a bunch of different artists that we're gonna sit down and just talk about hip hop. So we've got artists like we've got Jesus in the house. We've got Sergeant and Comrade.
Great.
We have Cartel in the house.
Oh, Cartel
We have a bunch of
Madras?
different
Yeah.
people. Yes,
Yes. Yeah,
yeah.
great.
So we have them in the house as well. We also have a breaking exhibition featuring Juicebox Crew versus Endless Possibility. We have a graph artist who's going to create an incredible 50 year hip hop anniversary graffiti artwork, JD Warpaint, and we're going to also feature the one and only legendary DJ Pump. He's going to be in the house
Oh,
as
great.
well. Yeah, so it's going to be somewhat of a celebration. I mean, that's what I want to look at it, but somewhat of a celebration, but right here in the West
Right.
at Stephen Bell. Yeah.
Do you have people coming up to you going, hey, I used to watch you and, thanks for exposing me to this music?
Yeah, I mean, I get that honestly. With bragging rights, I get that all the time. But you also realize what much music meant to people back in the day. Much music was social media. Much music was fashion. Much music was politics. Much music was music. They were the leaders of the cutting edge of coolness.
Lastly, is there a Canadian, who are you digging these days in terms of Canadian hip hop?
Canadian hip hop. I mean, I gotta say, I like what Hawaii Mighty's doing.
Mm.
I give her big props. Polaris Music Award prize winner, as well as first female to pick up the Juno. So I think she's good. Another young cat, I think his name is Benji, I think it is. Another young cat out there. And I like what they're doing. I mean, I like the fact that they're understanding it's a different movement for them. They don't have to run and chase down a major record label. They can be self-contained. We've got our team, we've got our social media person. We've got our glam team, and we've got and they're booking festivals. I mean, they're performing all over the world,
Hmm.
and that couldn't have. It would be very hard to happen, back in the day to kind of international leverage, that some of these hip hop artists are creating now.
For sure. Well, thank you again, Tony, for joining us on CKUA today to talk about this event and a bit about your own relationship with hip hop.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, Lisa, and I look forward to. I'm calling out all the old hip hop heads in Calgary. I'm calling out all the new hip hoppers. Make sure you join us because it's going to be a beautiful celebration for the hip hop's 50th anniversary. So I'm looking forward to coming out.